प्रणाम, गुड मॉर्निंग, गुड इवनिंग एंड गुड नाइट वेयरएवर यू आर। तो आज मैं वीडियो हिंदी में बोलूँगा क्योंकि मेरे एक भाई युवराज सिंह भाई ने बोला था नेक्स्ट टाइम हिंदी में भी बोला करो, उनके लिए भी होगा। तो ये मेरे जो नेपाली दोस्त हैं तो उनके लिए भाई 2 मिनट के लिए हिंदी भी सुन लो, कभी कभार वो भी भाईचारा होता है। वो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट मत करो नेपाली इंडियन करके, हिंदी नेपाली करके, हम दोनों ही एक ही मूल से हैं, ठीक है। तो चले आगे। तो आज का मैं वीडियो बना रहा हूँ साइंस के ऊपर, साइंटिज्म या बोलो साइंसोलॉजी या बोलो जो हमें मॉडर्न साइंस बताया गया है उसके बारे में। तो अगर आप गूगल करें, अगर आपको मॉडर्न फिजिसिस्ट से या मॉडर्न साइंटिस्ट से अगर आप पूछे कि साइंस क्या है, व्हाट इज़ मॉडर्न साइंस, तो वो बोलेंगे इट इज़ अ परस्यूट and application of knowledge and understanding of natural and social world following a systematic methodology based on evidences। और इसका 4 विभाजन किया गया है। साइंस को, आज के मॉडर्न साइंस को 4 एक टाइप में विभाजन किया गया है। अगर मैं जनरलाइज करूँ, ये नहीं कह रहा कि मैं सही हूँ, मैं अगर जनरलाइज करूँ तो वो है मैथमेटिक्स, वो है लॉजिक, वो है बायोलॉजिकल साइंस, वो है फिजिकल साइंस और एक सोशल साइंस। सॉरी 5, एक भूल गया, 5 सोशल साइंस, फिजिकल साइंस, बायोलॉजिकल साइंस, मैथमेटिक्स एंड लॉजिक। ये आज का साइंस का बेस है। इसके थ्रू हमारी थ्योरीज, हमारी साइंटिफिक एविडेंसेस, हमारी ब्रेक थ्रू और जो भी नया कुछ जो बोलो साइंटिस्ट लोग हमें देते हैं, इनके थ्रू ही होता है। पर मैं आज थोड़ी सी जो साइंस, मॉडर्न साइंस स्कूलों में जो पढ़ा गया है उसके अलावा जो सच में साइंस, जो मेरे को लगता है जो सच में साइंस होना चाहिए, क्योंकि आज जो डिफिनेशन वाइज साइंस नहीं लेते लोग एक किताब पढ़ते हैं, उसी को फॉलो करते हैं और उसी को मान लेते हैं। एक अगर फिजिक्स का बुक ले लिया तो लोग फिजिक्स चार्ट लेंगे, समझ नहीं लेंगे। वो मैथमेटिक्स चार्ट लेंगे, समझ नहीं लेंगे। वो साइंस या बायोलॉजिकल स्ट्रक्चर को कि क्या है समझ नहीं लेंगे, चार्ट लेंगे। और जो भी रिपीटेशन वाइज होता है ना, जो भी आपने जो समझ से नहीं आया, वो मैं साइंस नहीं बोलता। वो एक रिलीजियस, एक आइडियोलॉजी थोपा गया होता है, वो भी एक केवल रिलीजन ही होता है। क्योंकि जो भी साइंटिफिक है वो एविडेंस के थ्रू, एक रिपीटेड पैटर्न के थ्रू और एक फैक्चुअल, वो फैक्ट क्या होता है, जो एक समूहगत प्रयास से निकला हुआ रिपीटेड में यही निकलेगा और ये फिक्स्ड है, ये होगा ही। इसे फैक्ट्स और एविडेंसेस कहते हैं। पर आज के जो साइंटिस्ट हैं, आज के जो लोग हैं, जिस बात में भी साइंस घुसा लेते हैं, ये साइंटिस्ट ने कहा था, ये इसने कहा था, प्रूफ करो भाई ये क्यों कहा था। तुम्हें वो समझदार हो कि नहीं हो, आज के युवा हो कि नहीं हो, आज का युग का इंसान हो कि नहीं हो, आप अगर किसी को समझा नहीं सकते तो वो आपके लिए वो साइंस नहीं है, वो आपके अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं है, वो भी एक रिलीजन जैसा ही है। आज के थ्रू साइंस भी एक रिलीजन बन गया है। वो लोग बुक में जो पढ़े वही साइंस बोल लेते हैं, ये गलत है, ये साइंस नहीं है। आई एम अगेंस्ट दिस। इसे साइंटिज्म बोला जाता है। वो इज्म जब आ गया ना, वो रिलीजन हो गया। रिलीजन भेड़ों की चाल होती है। वो लोग समझदार लोग की बात नहीं करते, समझदार लोग अपनी दृष्टि से देखते हैं, गलत हो तो सुधार कर लेते हैं। इसे साइंस बोला जाता है। टू अंडरस्टैंड द यूनिवर्स through certain patterns, certain logic, certain experiments, certain things to help humanity grow in conscious level and to live our life better। इसको मैं साइंस बोलता हूँ। विज्ञान, विशेष ज्ञान, अगर हिंदी में बोलूँ, देवनागरी वो ले लूँ भाषा, तो विज्ञान, विशेष ज्ञान, किसी चीज़ का आपको विशेष ज्ञान है जो सामूहिक लोगों के पास नहीं है और वो ट्रू है, सत्य है, वो अगर करो फिर से वो वही होगा, उसे हम विज्ञान कहते हैं। और वो केमिस्ट्री हो सकती है, बायोलॉजी हो सकती है, फिजिक्स हो सकती है, ज्योतिष विज्ञान हो सकती है, अध्यात्म हो सकती है, ये सब विज्ञान ही है। डोंट ब्रेन वॉश योरसेल्फ इन दिस वेस्टर्न माइंडसेट कि फिजिकल एविडेंसेस ही साइंस है। ये गलत है। साइंस का मतलब अंडरस्टैंडिंग होता है मेरे लिए। साइंस का मतलब इस संसार को जानने का एक प्रक्रिया होती है मेरे लिए, जो बाहरमुखी संसार है ना उसके लिए, जो मॉडर्न साइंस बोला गया है। पर अभी मैं वो नहीं देखता। अभी मेरे दोस्त, जो मेरे भाई हैं, जो मेरी बहन है, जो मेरी सिस्टर हैं, जो मेरे अंकल हैं, जो मेरी मामा हैं, जो ग्रेजुएट हैं, वो लोग विज्ञान की तो बात ही नहीं करते। ब्रेन वॉश्ड हैं सब, ब्रेन वॉश। मैं उसको इंडोक्ट्रिनेशन कहता हूँ, इसलिए मैंने वीडियो बनाया था इंडोक्ट्रिनेशन के ऊपर। इंडोक्ट्रिनेट मतलब एक ही बंदे को एक ही बात घुसा दो दिमाग में और उसके ज़्यादा वो कुछ मानता ही नहीं। कोई न्यूटन पर पढ़ा लिया है, कोई गैलीलियो में अटका हुआ है, कोई स्टीफन हॉकिंग में अटका हुआ है, कोई आइंस्टाइन में अटका। अरे भाई, तुम्हारी साइंस क्या है, तुम्हारी अंडरस्टैंडिंग क्या है, वो बताओ ना। तुम अपनी बात करो ना, तुम अपने से स्टार्ट करो ना। वो क्या कहते हैं मेरे को क्या, अगर वो आप उसकी बात अंडरस्टैंड कर सके तो वो जो ज्ञान है वो आपकी भी ज्ञान बन गई ना। ज्ञान थोड़ी ऑब्जेक्टिफाई करे, ज्ञान तो सब्जेक्टिव नॉलेज है ना, ये तो सब्जेक्ट है। अगर मैंने भी जाना, आपने भी जाना, तो हमारी जानना के दो डिफरेंसेस होते हैं नहीं ना। साइंस, इसी तो मजा है साइंस में। शायद दो कवियों का एक ही कविता ना हो, पर एक दो साइंस के ओरिएंटेड माइंड व्यक्ति का कंक्लूजन एक ही होता है, क्योंकि वो सब्जेक्ट एक ही था। और अभी के लिए जो थ्योरेटिकल साइंटिस्ट है वो थ्योरी देते हैं। पहली बात, जो थ्योरेटिकल साइंटिस्ट है वो टोटली ट्रू नहीं है, वो थ्योरी है, वो फैक्ट नहीं है, वो रियलिटी नहीं है। जो ग्रेविटी है, आपको बताया गया, ग्रेविटी इज अ यूनिवर्सल थ्योरी, इट्स नॉट अ फैक्ट। और ये मैं आपको, मेरी अगर आपसे कभी टीचिंग हुई, अगर आपने मेरे को कभी सिखाया, अगर मेरे आपको भी गुरु थे, अगर मेरे टीचर थे, मेरे दोस्त थे, तो मैं प्रश्न करना चाहता हूँ, ग्रेविटी को दिखाओ, मेरे को समझाओ। वो मैथमेटिकल फॉर्मूला मत दिखाओ भाई, ये अनप्रूवन हो चुका है। वो न्यूटन वाला शेव का तो फिनिश, उसका मामला खत्म। गूगल करो, रिसर्च करो। मैं रिसर्च करता हूँ, मैं अपना रिसर्च करता हूँ, हर चीज़ का रिसर्च करता हूँ। मेरे लिए साइंस सिर्फ एक फिजिकल साइकोलॉजी नहीं है। मेरे लिए साइंस होल लाइफ को अंडरस्टैंड करने की एक प्रक्रिया है, एक जैसे बोल लो एक टेक्निक है, मैथोलॉजी है। जैसे नेपाल एक काठमांडू एक तांत्रिक सिटी था। जब एक तंत्र बोलते हैं ना, तंत्र या तांत्रिक सिटी, तो इसका मतलब नहीं वुडू वुडू करो या मैजिक वगैरह नहीं। तंत्र मतलब सिस्टम, वो भी एक साइंस है, अपने को जानने की साइंस, समाज में रहने की साइंस। पर ये भूल गए ना, क्योंकि स्कूलिंग में तो ठूसा गया यही होगा। और ये स्कूलिंग सिस्टम ने क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग बंद कर ली लोगों को। इसीलिए आज का बंदा डिप्रेशन में चला जा रहा है, एंग्जाइटी हो रहा है, डिप्रेशन हो रहा है, क्योंकि जो इन्फॉर्मेशन उसे मिली है वो उसे सही मानता है, वो उसे साइंस मानता है। उसने कभी गया नहीं, उसे कभी पूछा ही नहीं, साहस की नहीं कि ये क्यों है। मैंने की, बहुत हंसे लोग, मजाक भी उड़ाई मेरी। उड़ा लो भाई, अब देखना चुतियों, अब मेरे ये प्रश्न का उत्तर दो। अगर आप मेरे गुरु भी थे ना, फेल भी हुआ था, मेरे अब ये प्रश्न करो, ये प्रश्न का उत्तर दो, हर मेरे वीडियो के प्रश्न का उत्तर दो। मैंने हर एक वीडियो पे कंपाइल करके, अगर मैं एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर पाया तब भी मैंने जो शॉर्ट वीडियो उसको कंपाइल करके मेरे वीडियो में ऐड अप कर लिए, सो दैट आई कैन एक्सप्लेन यू मच बेटर। क्योंकि अभी की जो टेक्नोलॉजी है, अभी के जो वीडियो एडिटिंग टूल्स है, मैं ही तो अकेला बंदा नहीं हूँ ना ये एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए, और भी बंदे हैं। उस बंदों के वीडियो ऐड करके एक छोटी सी वीडियो क्लिप बना के मैं आप लोगों को भेज रहा हूँ कि भाई देखो मामला ये है। मेरे लिए साइंस टू अंडरस्टैंड द वर्ल्ड एंड टू अंडरस्टैंड द फिजिकल रियलिटी और इनसाइड रियलिटी है। ये मेरी परिभाषा है। और जो कैथलिक चर्च, ज्यूज और लोग जो साइंस के ऊपर, जो मॉडर्न साइंस के ऊपर पैसा फेंक रहे हैं और तमाशा देख रहे हैं, तमाशा बना रहे हैं साइंस को, मेरे को ये पसंद नहीं है। इसलिए मैं ये वीडियो बना रहा हूँ। और इसके बाद मैंने शायद 2-3 साइंस एक प्रोफेसर थे, प्रोफेसर, टीचर्स और एक इंटरव्यू जो बहुत से लोग हैं उनको कंपाइल करके ये वीडियो बनाए। अच्छी तरीके से देखना, साइंस, मॉडर्न साइंस, साइंटिज्म और जो मिथ है और जो पर्सपेक्टिव है उसको चेंज करना। अगर ट्राई कर लो तो ओपन माइंड से ये वीडियो देखना। ऐसे मत देखना कि ये उत्सव हिंदी में क्यों बात कर रहा है, इंग्लिश में बात क्यों नहीं कर रहा, नेपाली में बात क्यों नहीं कर रहा। अच्छे से ओपन माइंड होके एक बार देख लेना साइंस क्या है, और फिर से मेरे से आके बात करना। अगर नेक्स्ट टाइम मजाक भी उड़ानी हो मेरी, उड़ा लो, पर ये वीडियो देख के उड़ा लो, सब वीडियो देख के उड़ा लेना। अभी के लिए मेरे और भी वीडियो आएंगे, और भी टॉपिक है बात करने के ऊपर, पर अभी के लिए ये वीडियो और भी है, मैंने ऐड करके स्टेबल किया है, एडिट किया है। उन लोगों को भी सुनना, वो लोग बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट बात कर रहे थे, वो लोग ट्रू साइंस की बात कर रहे थे। और आपको वो जो मेंटल मैट्रिक्स में बोलता हूँ, जो आपको सोसाइटी, आपको स्कूलिंग सिस्टम में दबाया गया है, साइकोलॉजिकल दबाव होता है ना, उससे निकलने के लिए, एक रिवायर करने के लिए ये वीडियो प्लीज़ ज़रूर देखना, और फिर हम दोस्त बन सकते हैं, 1 साल के नहीं, 2 साल के नहीं, सारी ज़िंदगी के लिए। तो प्रणाम, अभी देखते रहना।
Coming out of a university with a master's degree or a PhD, you take them into the field and they literally don't believe anything unless it's a peer-reviewed paper. It's the only thing they accept. And you say to them, but let's observe, let's think, let's discuss. They don't do it. It's just, is it in a peer-reviewed paper or not? That's their view of science. I think it's pathetic. Gone into universities as bright young people, they come out of them brain dead, not even knowing what science means. They think it means peer-reviewed papers, etc. No, that's academia. And if a paper is peer-reviewed, it means everybody thought the same, therefore they approved it. An unintended consequence is that when new knowledge emerges, new scientific insights, they can never ever be peer-reviewed. So we're blocking all new advances in science that are big advances. If you look at the breakthroughs in science, almost always they don't come from the center of that profession. They come from the fringe. The finest candle makers in the world couldn't even think of electric lights. They don't come from within. They often come from outside the breaks. We're going to kill ourselves because of stupidity.
There is an attitude today that I often find among students that natural science is the only source of knowledge and truth. And I think this is an extremely naive and ultimately self-refuting attitude. The fact is that there are all sorts of avenues to knowledge, and there are different kinds of truth and scientific truth. For example, mathematical and logical truths, which are assumed by, not proved by, science. Metaphysical truths about the nature of reality, like the reality of the external world or the reality of the past. Ethical and aesthetic truths about the good and the beautiful. And even scientific truths themselves. The fact is that modern science is permeated by assumptions which cannot themselves be scientifically proven. Now, one area of knowledge, in addition to the physical sciences, would be history. And the fact is that history is really on exactly the same level as the natural sciences in terms of its objectivity and its dependence upon empirical data. When historians investigate the evidence, for example, concerning Alexander the Great and the ancient Greek Empire, they are employing methods of inquiry that are every bit as scientific as those that are used by a natural scientist in a chemistry or physics laboratory. And therefore, to shun history or historiography as not a source of knowledge is extremely naive. In fact, when you think about it, there are historical sciences like geology and paleontology and cosmology that are precisely dependent upon historical data for their conclusions. So in those sorts of sciences, you have a merger of the historical method and the scientific method to produce acceptable conclusions. And I would say with regard to Christianity, there the truths about the life and ministry of Jesus of Nazareth are accessible to objective historical inquiry. And this is therefore every bit as much knowledge as the knowledge that you would find in a modern day laboratory.
Let's talk about scientism today. Science has basically evolved into a religion called scientism. Most of you unwillingly subject yourself to this religion of scientism due to a lack of critical thinking. I like the way that Wiki defines scientism. I think it could be defined numerous ways. But scientism is the view that science is the best or only objective means by which society should determine normative or epistemological values. Basically, the belief that science is always right and science has no room to be wrong, but we know that to not be true. Perception of reality. This is an analogy I came up with myself. Your perception of reality is determined by what you have been taught, your experiences, and what you have seen. So you look at the circle is your perception, but the square is reality. So the square is actually what can be true, but the circle is only what you believe to be true based off those principles. Your perception of reality can be molded or influenced, and we call that brainwashing or being indoctrinated. Saying all of that, pop quiz. Which one of these statements is a fact? I'm going to give you a hint. Only one of them is a fact, which is the sky is blue. The rest of these are completely theoretical. Let's talk about theory versus fact. A fact is a thing that is known or proven to be true. A theory is a supposition or a system of ideas used to explain something. What is a supposition? An uncertain belief. Coming full circle, a lot of us use what we learned in school as a foundation to determine what is true and what is not true, or as a foundation for our outlook on life. But if your foundation is built upon theories, and theories are uncertain beliefs, then that leaves the door open for a lot of things that you've been taught to actually be wrong. And I say all of this because when I was 18, I had an epiphany that what if everything I've been taught up until this day was a lie? How would I know?
For instance, on the structure of the atom, or looking at plants, looking at sea creatures, but it's all to show that it's obvious that there's a designer behind life. And you know, one of the atheists here once was quoted in the newspaper after being here as saying, that place is so dangerous, it's so well done, kids are going to believe it. see, they want kids to believe their atheism.
And they can see millions and billions of years into the past by doing radioisotope dating. But they're making a ton of assumptions when they do that.
Now, the only meaningful place to start is with the word of someone who has seen everything from the beginning and told us exactly what happened. That someone is God. Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth.
Proof do you have that the world is 6,000 years old?
In regard to what you call scientific methodology, such as using radiometric dating methods, all dating methods involve a process of change over time. You cannot prove or disprove what the age of the Earth is. It's impossible in an absolute sense. So I can't prove it's young, they can't prove it's old. But for me, the ultimate proof that the Earth, the universe, is only thousands of years old and not millions of years old is the record of the history book of the universe.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. Their form is luminous, so this is why we can see them. People argue that because we can see them, they must be physical. No. Light, fire, is visible, and light is visible, and it has no physicality at all whatsoever. Whatever is above us, a firmament, a vault, a dome, whatever kind of structure that holds those stars and all of the visible planets are moving and not we. Clearly this is one evidence that will appeal to the ones who still have their thinking faculties activated and alive and well, and who have not suspended them, and who know how to think things through. All they need to do is think about these four notions: the supposed rotation, the supposed orbit, the supposed flinging from a galactic center at 550 million miles an hour, All of these, when you put all of these together, we should be seeing different stars every minute of the day, and yet we don't. The dome or the vault of starry heavens above us is always the same. So when you factor in all of these four motions, we are actually travelling 1 billion miles a year. So with 1 billion miles every year, now I've done 52 billion miles in my life because I'm 52 years old, and I have not seen a change whatsoever in any of the constellations in all of my life. Not even 1 minute or 1 second of degree of arc of parallax have I witnessed.
And then there's a vault of heaven above that, and that's where the true sun is, where the light is coming through those holes. So the sun has not got it. It is original magnetic source light, but from another source. It's a transmitter. Thank you, Eric Dollard. Who says that the sun is a transmitter of primary energy to secondary energy. Well, I've just explained that theologically, from the monad to the dyad, because the sun is the creator of this world. Walter Russell said that. He said every little atom that exists and dances on this, whatever we see, comes from the sun. Everything. The sun is the creator, not the prime creator, like a carpenter. He gets bricks and wood and makes a house. He can't say he made the bricks and the wood, but he can say that he created and built the house. But he's not the creator. He created the house. He's a builder.
From these books, none of these books can be actually scientifically proven.
Well, that's for sure. You don't scientifically prove to me that UT Austin's going to give you a diploma on your day of graduation. You trust the University of Texas to be a reliable institution of higher learning. That's why you commit so much of your money and work to get a diploma, to get a degree. You don't scientifically prove that UT is going to grant you a diploma on your day of graduation. That there is historical knowledge, which is based on the trustworthiness of eyewitness testimony. There is scientific knowledge, which is based on not eyewitness testimony, it's based on the repeatability of an experiment. If you can't do it in London, England, the way you do it in Austin, Texas, it ain't scientifically true. You've got to be able to consistently repeat it. Well, you don't do that in historical knowledge. You don't repeat Washington's inauguration every September in a lab to prove that Washington really was the first president. So there are different forms of knowledge.
My point is parameters do change.
But I think you're buying into scientism as a catch-all, and that supersedes history, the humanities, and everything else, which is what we see in this country today. I think it sounds like you're talking about science just exists in a vacuum. No, science doesn't exist. There's not such thing as science. There's only scientists. There's only scientists in terms of who come up with theories. Well, you keep talking, it sounds to me like you keep referencing to science as some ironclad study that proves everything.
Absolutely not.
It certainly doesn't. Well, you just talked about his point of view, and how his point of view is supposedly an ironclad point of view that's just covering over everything. It just sounds to me like that's what how you're referencing science, right?
Knowledge, or is your view, or your outlook, that science is the only way to truth?
Yes.
Okay, good. So do you not see the issues with that outlook, or the problems with that outlook?
Well, you can try explaining it to me.
So let me give you an example. Have you been to India? Have you been to India?
No, I haven't.
You haven't been to India?
I'd love to.
Okay, do you believe India exists?
Yes.
Okay, so you haven't been there, you haven't observed it, yet you believe it exists.
The evidence is fairly convincing.
Okay, so what do you mean by the evidence is fairly convincing?
I've seen photographs taken from space.
Brilliant, okay. What else?
Do we need more?
Okay, fine, fair enough. I was just giving you the benefit of the doubt that you can give us a bit more so I can work.
I know of people who have come from India, who have visited India.
Okay,
a friend of mine is there now.
Okay.
And I'm on Messenger and Facebook with him. He's currently, where is he currently? Is it Calcutta? I can't remember.
So look, here's the problem, John. You haven't observed India yourself, yet you believe it exists based on photographs and people that have been there. Now, how do you know those photographs are actually of India, and that you're not just being told they're of India?
Well, I think that you'd have to, I mean, you're on a loser there, because you're having to try to rubbish all of the photographs taken from space by all of the spacecraft, all of the orbiting satellites, and all of the spacemen that have been in the IS.
Have you seen yourself satellites that are up there right now?
Yes, you can observe satellites.
But have you observed them yourself through a telescope?
I have, yes.
You have? Okay. So here's the thing. What I'm saying regarding India is you haven't observed it yourself. So what I'm saying essentially is your belief India exists is based on something called testimony, right? In philosophy, this is known as authentic and valid testimony, right? Which is, by the way, John, an integral part of the scientific method, right?
Well, yes.
Something you deny in your book itself.
But the testament can itself be tested. I mean, with the right equipment, I can go and investigate India for myself.
That's a potential, John. But right now you haven't done that, yet you believe India exists, right? So your belief is not based upon what you can do as far as observing it. It's based on something else. So what I'm trying to highlight to you, John, is that are you willing to acknowledge that there are other routes to knowledge other than just science, which you're demonstrating right now? By highlighting that you believe India exists, although you haven't observed it yourself. Pictures are testimonials. Someone is telling you those pictures are of India. You're going by the testimony of people. Let me give you another example which may be closer to home, which may help you a bit better, if you don't mind, right? Do you believe evolution, the Darwinian mechanism, is true?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't, listen, as an ex-science teacher, I don't use terms like I believe. I use terms like the evidence shows. The evidence shows.
Shows that?
That evolution is a fact.
So you believe the Darwinian mechanism in particular?
Well, now, are you going to pin me down to a man who died 150 years ago, or are you going to allow me to update evolution with what we've discovered since?
Give us your definition then. How do you want to call, what do you want to call it? Evolution? Just evolution in general?
Well, at its basic level, all evolution means is change. And we can observe change happening today, and we can see evidence of a progression of things that happened in the past, in the fossil record and so on. And so the best explanation is that change happened in the past too.
Okay, good. So look, that's good you're saying that. So what I'm asking you specifically is, do you believe the theory of evolution is true?
Yes.
Okay, so in you saying yes, have you done all of the observations which led to that conclusion of that particular theory?
This is the "were you there" argument.
Well, that's coming from your own perspective, because you said evidence is something which is observable, it's something that's repeatable, and something that's shareable. Anything, and you've said also in your book and your videos that anything that comes from the human mind can't be trusted because it's tainted. Your words.
Yes, that's right.
So the theory that you believe in is coming from the mind of a scientist.
No, the theory that I subscribe to is that change can be observed, and potentially I can go and observe change. You know, I can go. Have you seen the big Petri dish experiment?
No, I haven't.
A fantastic experiment. They made a Petri. You know what a Petri dish is? Yeah, it's a culture container which you put a nutrient jelly in, and then you can grow bacteria. Okay, they made a great big one.
So let's make a distinction here. There is a difference between observations of science and theories of science, right?
Yes.
So what I'm trying to highlight to you is that there are other routes to knowledge which are involved even within the scientific method itself, which you have to rely upon for you to believe the conclusions of science.
Well,
which you reject, by the way. So I want to know, which way is it? Do you acknowledge that there are other routes to knowledge, such as testimonial knowledge, or do you hold firm to that science is the only way to truth?
Where you are trying to put words into my mouth here.
I'm asking you the question.
Okay. So
I'm sure everyone's really interested in the science lessons. I'm sure we've got a lot to learn from you, being an ex-physics teacher.
Because you asked me about where I need to use belief in science.
No, I'm asking you a very simple question. Do you acknowledge that there are other routes to knowledge which are integral to the scientific method itself, such as testimony? Or don't you acknowledge that? Are you just saying, just purely, because according to your book, and you may want to change your opinion, that observations, repeatable, and that are shareable, full stop. According to that type of definition, you're pigeonholing yourself in many ways. Because you, in a way, you're denying the scientific enterprise. You're denying science in itself.
No.
Right?
Because...
So just tell me this, John. Do you believe in the theories of science?
The theories of science do not need believing.
I'm not saying the absolute. I'm just asking. So do you ascribe...
No, I wouldn't claim they were absolute. I claim that they are the best explanation currently.
And do you acknowledge that they are also what's incorporated in the process of getting to the theory? There are other elements to it, such as testimony, reasoning. Which argumentation?
We let John make his point.
Yes.
Every theory makes predictions.
Yeah.
And at that stage, you can believe the prediction or not. We would call it a hypothesis. And there will be rival hypotheses, just like there are rival runners in a horse race, and you can choose your favorite. Okay? And that is where belief is applied in science.
So you'd acknowledge that?
At the frontiers where we don't know.
Okay, so let me ask you in a simple way. We've got 1 minute about 2 minutes left. Do you acknowledge testimony as a valid route to knowledge? It's a simple question.